The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. They built rockets. They reached the moon. They colonized Mars. And then they discovered they were not alone. The galaxy was full of life. Hundreds of intelligent species had built empires among the stars long before humans learned to make fire. They watched Earth with curious eyes. They studied these strange creatures who killed each other over land and ideas. They wondered if humans would destroy themselves before reaching the stars. But humanity survived. They always did. When the first human ship crossed into interstellar space, the galaxy took notice. The Unified Species Council, a governing body of 347 alien civilizations, debated what to do with this new species. Some said humans should be welcomed. Others said they should be destroyed while they were still weak. Most simply wanted to watch and wait. For 200 years, humanity expanded. They built colonies on distant worlds. They traded with alien merchants. They learned new sciences and shared their own discoveries. Humans were loud, ambitious, and endlessly curious. They asked too many questions. They pushed too hard. They never seemed satisfied with what they had. And slowly, the galaxy began to fear them. Admiral Kang Tayo stood on the bridge of the Yu's sovereignty, humanity's greatest warship. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in the military, fighting pirates and protecting trade routes. He had seen the best and worst of both humans and aliens. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. The holographic display flickered to life in front of him. An alien face appeared, belonging to a creature that looked like a giant insect with too many eyes. This was the Speaker of the Council, the voice of 347 species. Humanity, the speaker said, its voice cold and clicking. You have been judged. Taiho said nothing. He simply watched. Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. Your aggressive expansion, your violent history, and your refusal to accept your place among the stars has forced us to act. From this moment forward, humanity is confined to your home system. You will not travel beyond your sun. You will not trade with other species. You will not communicate with the outside galaxy. Commander Park Yuna stood beside the Admiral. She was younger than him, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She led the intelligence division, and she had warned Taiho this might happen. The aliens had been afraid for years. They just needed an excuse. Your colonies beyond the Sol system have 30 standard days to evacuate, the speaker continued. Any human found outside your solar system after this deadline will be executed. Any human ship that attempts to leave will be destroyed. This is the will of the Council. This is final. The transmission ended. The bridge was silent. Officers looked at each other with shock and anger. Some clenched their fists. Others simply stared at the empty space where the alien face had been. Chief Engineer Beek Sunno was the first to speak. He was a large man with rough hands and a gentle voice. He had built half the systems on this ship himself. They can't do this, he said. We have rights under the Galactic Charter. The Charter means nothing to them, Yuna replied. It never did. We were never really equal in their eyes. We were just animals they allowed to play among the stars. Tactical Officer Lee Minho pulled up data on his screen. He was young, barely 30, but brilliant with numbers and strategy. Admiral, if we resist, they will send fleets. The Council has millions of ships. We have maybe 50,000 combat-ready vessels. The math doesn't work. Dr. Ohana, the head of the science division, shook her head. She was a small woman with white hair and kind eyes. She had dedicated her life to understanding alien biology and culture. There must be a diplomatic solution. We can appeal to the moderate species. The Valorians have always been reasonable. The crystal beings value trade. If we can convince them, no. Everyone turned to Admiral Taiho. He had not moved. He had not raised his voice. But something in his tone made everyone stop. No more diplomacy, he said slowly. No more begging. No more hoping they will see us as equals. He turned to face his crew. These were the best men and women humanity had produced. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, strategists. They had given their lives to protecting Earth and its colonies. And now, the galaxy had decided they were nothing more than dangerous animals to be caged. I have watched humanity try to fit into this galaxy for 40 years, Taiho said. We followed their rules. We respected their borders. We traded fairly and fought honestly. And what did it get us? Confinement. Our colonies sentenced to death or exile. Our future stolen. He walked to the main viewing window. Outside, stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Each one might hold a planet. Each planet might hold life. And now, humans were forbidden from ever reaching them. They made a mistake today, Taiho continued. They showed us exactly what they think of us. They showed us that no matter how hard we try, no matter how much we achieve, they will never accept us. They will always see us as a threat. And threats are meant to be eliminated. He turned back to his crew. So we will stop trying to be accepted. We will stop asking for permission. If they want to treat us as enemies, then enemies we shall be. Commander Yuna stepped forward. What are you suggesting, Admiral? Taiho's eyes were cold and hard. I am suggesting that we stop playing their game. The Council thinks they have trapped us. They think we are weak, scared, and alone. They think we will accept their judgment and fade away into history. He looked at each officer in turn. They are wrong. He pressed a button on his console. A secure channel opened to every human ship in the fleet, every colony in the galaxy, every military installation on Earth. This is Admiral Kang Taiho of the United Earth Navy, the unified species. Council has declared humanity confined and condemned. They have given us 30 days to abandon everything we have built beyond our home system. He paused. We will not comply. The words hung in the air like thunder. From this moment forward, humanity is at war. Not to defend ourselves, not to survive, but to show the galaxy what happens when you try to cage the human spirit. Prepare for total war. He closed the channel. On Earth, defense sirens began to wail. On colonies across the galaxy, soldiers armed themselves. On ships scattered through space, crews prepared for the fight of their lives. The galaxy had wanted to contain humanity. They were about to learn why that was impossible. The galaxy expected screaming. They expected protests and threats and desperate pleas for mercy. They expected humanity to fight, to argue, to beg for another chance. Instead, they got silence. On the day after the Council's verdict, Earth stopped transmitting. Human colonies went dark. Trading ships returned to port and never left again. Diplomatic channels closed without warning. It was as if humanity had simply decided to disappear. The alien species celebrated. The Valorian hegemony, a proud race of warrior creatures with 4 arms and scales like armor, held festivals in their capital. They had always hated humans the most. Too ambitious, they said. Too dangerous. Now the human threat was contained. The crystalline consortium, beings made of living rock and light, resumed their mining operations on the edge of human space. They had coveted those asteroid belts for decades. Now they could take what they wanted, the Hive Collective, a species of insectoid creatures who shared one massive mind, returned to their breeding cycles. They had voted for humanity's confinement because humans confused them. Humans acted as individuals, but fought as a collective. Humans loved and hated and felt emotions the hive could never understand. It was better that such strange creatures remained locked away. But deep beneath Earth's surface, something was happening. Defense Minister Cho Deo sat in a bunker 3 kilometers underground. He was an old man, nearly 80, but his mind was sharp as a blade. He had spent his entire career preparing for this day. When others talked of peace, he planned for war. When diplomats signed treaties, he built secret weapons. Everyone had called him paranoid. Now they called him a prophet. Activate Protocol Prometheus, he said calmly. His officers obeyed without question. Across the solar system, hidden facilities came to life. In the asteroid belt, shipyards that officially did not exist began producing warships at a rate the galaxy had never seen. On the dark side of the moon, factories built weapons that broke every galactic law. On Mars, training camps prepared soldiers for a war that would shake the stars. Humanity had been preparing for 300 years. They had smiled and traded and played nice with the galaxy. But they had never forgotten the truth. The universe was dangerous, and no one would protect them but themselves. Dr. Shin Yunbi worked in a laboratory deep beneath the ice of Europa. She was 42 years old, with messy black hair and eyes that burned with intelligence. She had dedicated her life to one project, breaking the rules of physics. Normal faster-than-light travel was slow. Ships had to build up energy, enter a special dimension, travel for hours or days, and then exit. It was predictable. It could be tracked. It could be stopped. Yunbi had found something better. The Cascade drive is ready, she told Minister Cho through the secure channel. Full testing was completed last month. It works perfectly. Explain it to me again, Cho said. Simply. Yunbi smiled. She was used to explaining complex things to people who did not understand. Normal FTL travel is like swimming through water. You can go fast, but there is resistance. You leave a trail. The Cascade drive is different. It folds space itself. One moment you are here. The next moment you are on the other side of the galaxy. No warning. No trace. No way to stop it. Cho nodded slowly. How many ships can we equip? All of them, Yunbi said. We have been installing the drives in secret for 5 years. Every major warship in the fleet already has one. The galaxy thought humanity was trapped in their solar system. They had no idea that human ships could now appear anywhere, anytime, without any warning at all. Meanwhile, Captain Ru Junho led a very different kind of operation. He was not a soldier in the traditional sense. He did not wear a uniform or command a warship. He wore plain clothes and spoke 12 alien languages. He could blend into any crowd on any world. He was the best spy humanity had ever produced. His team of infiltrators spread across the galaxy like ghosts. They landed on Council homeworlds using stolen alien ships. They walked among aliens wearing perfect disguises. They planted tiny devices that watched and listened and recorded everything. On the Valorian homeworld, Junho personally mapped every defense installation. He counted ships. He identified weaknesses. He found the locations of their leaders' homes and their children's schools. He felt no guilt. The Valorians had voted to cage his entire species. If it came to war, he wanted humanity to win. Whatever it took. General Imsora commanded the ground forces. She was 55 years old, with short gray hair and scars on her face from battles long past. She had never lost a fight in her life, and she did not intend to start now. In the caverns beneath Mars, she addressed her soldiers. Millions of them stood in perfect formation, their faces hard and determined. The galaxy thinks we are weak, she said, her voice carrying through every speaker in every chamber. They think we are scared. They think we will roll over and die because they told us to. She walked among her troops, looking into their eyes. They are wrong. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not accept its own extinction. She raised her fist. When the order comes, we will show them what humans are capable of. We will strike faster than they can react. We will hit harder than they ever imagined. We will make them regret the day they tried to cage us. The soldiers roared their approval. The sound echoed through the caverns like thunder. The 30-day deadline came and went. The Council sent their enforcement fleet to the Sol system. 100,000 alien warships, representing 12 different species, gathered at the edge of human space. They expected to find a cowering population ready to surrender. They found nothing. The solar system was empty. Earth was dark. The colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter were abandoned. Ships, stations, satellites, everything was gone. The alien admirals were confused. Had humanity fled into the void? Had they committed mass suicide rather than face confinement? Some laughed, calling humans cowards. Others felt uneasy, though they could not explain why. One Valorian commander spoke what others were thinking. Where did they go? 8 billion humans cannot simply vanish. No one had an answer. The fleet searched for 3 days. They found empty buildings and abandoned equipment. They found gardens left untended and pets left behind. They found every sign that humanity had lived here, but not a single living human. Finally, the fleet commander declared victory. The human threat has eliminated itself, he announced to the galaxy. They have fled into the darkness to die alone. The Council's wisdom has been proven correct. The galaxy celebrated once more. The human problem was solved. The dangerous species was gone. In the shadows of space, Admiral Kang Taiho watched the celebration through stolen alien broadcasts. He smiled coldly. The fools had no idea what was coming. They thought humanity had run away. They were about to learn the truth. The Valorian homeworld of Keth Prime was beautiful in its own way. The sky was purple, and the oceans were green. Cities made of black stone stretched across every continent. 50 billion Valorians lived there, proud warriors who believed their species was destined to rule the galaxy. They woke up that morning to fire in their skies. Admiral Kang Taiho's fleet appeared without any warning. One moment, the space above Keth Prime was empty. The next moment, 17,000 human warships hung in perfect formation. Like a wall of metal and Beth. The Valorians had never seen anything like it. Their sensors had not detected any approaching ships. Their early warning systems had not triggered. The humans had simply appeared from nothing. This is impossible, the Valorian defense commander whispered. He was an old warrior with many victories to his name, but he had never faced an enemy who could break the laws of physics. Admiral Taiho stood on the bridge of the Sovereignty, watching the chaos unfold below. Valorian ships scrambled to respond. Ground batteries powered up. Communication channels exploded with panicked voices. "Begin," Taiho said simply. The human fleet moved like a single organism. They did not charge forward in a wild attack. Instead, they split into dozens of smaller groups, each one targeting a specific defense installation. Their movements were precise, calculated, perfect. Tactical Officer Lee Mino coordinated the strike from his station. His fingers danced across holographic controls, directing thousands of ships with tiny adjustments. He had spent years studying Valorian defenses. He knew exactly where to hit. The first orbital defense platform exploded in a ball of fire. Then the second. Then the third. Human ships weaved between enemy fire, always moving, never staying still long enough to be targeted. They used the cascade drive to jump short distances, peering behind enemy ships and destroying them before they could turn around. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes. When it was over, every Valorian military installation in orbit was destroyed or disabled. Their proud fleet was scattered debris floating through space. Their ground batteries were smoking craters, but that was not the remarkable part. Not a single civilian target had been touched. The cities below were untouched. The residential stations still floated peacefully. Hospitals, schools, homes, all of them were perfectly intact. The Valorian defense commander stared at his screens in disbelief. "They could have destroyed us all," he said slowly. "They could have burned our cities, killed our children. But they didn't." Admiral Taiho sent a single transmission to the surface. "This is Admiral Kong Taiho of the United Earth Navy. We have demonstrated our capabilities. We did not come to destroy you. We came to show you what we can do. Think carefully about your next move." Then, as quickly as they had arrived, the human fleet vanished. Space above Keth Prime was empty again, as if nothing had happened. Only the burning wreckage of the Valorian defenses remained as evidence. The same day, similar events unfolded across the galaxy. Captain Ru Jun-ho led his strike teams to 3 different Council member homeworlds. They did not use ships or weapons. They used something far more terrifying: precision. On the capital world of the Crystalline Consortium, Jun-ho walked into the Hall of Elders during their most sacred ceremony. He passed through 17 layers of security without triggering a single alarm. Guards stood frozen as he walked past them, their weapons jammed by technology they could not understand. He placed a small metal box on the speaker's podium. Then he left as quietly as he had arrived. When the crystalline leaders opened the box, they found a simple note written in their own language. This could have been a bomb. On the Hive Collective's breeding world, human agents appeared inside their most protected facility. They walked among millions of eggs, each one containing a future Hive soldier. They touched nothing. They harmed nothing. They simply took photographs and left. The photographs arrived at the Hive Queen's chamber an hour later, along with another note. "We were here. We could have ended your entire next generation. We chose not to." On a dozen other worlds, similar messages arrived. Human agents had penetrated the most secure locations in the galaxy. They had bypassed defenses that were supposed to be impossible to breach. And they had done nothing but deliver warnings. The galaxy was terrified. Commander Park Yuna coordinated the intelligence reports from her station aboard the Sovereignty. Every council species was reacting the same way: panic, confusion, fear. They had thought humans were primitive. They had thought humans were contained. Now they realized humans could strike anywhere, anytime, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. "They are calling emergency sessions," Yuna reported to Admiral Taiho. "Every major species is demanding an explanation. They want to know how we did it. They want to know why we showed mercy." Taiho nodded slowly. "Good. Let them wonder. Let them fear." Dr. Ohana watched the reports with mixed feelings. She had dedicated her life to understanding aliens, to finding common ground between species. Part of her grieved for what was happening. Part of her knew it was necessary. "Admiral," she said carefully, "they will not understand our restraint. To them, power exists to be used. Showing mercy while demonstrating strength will confuse them." "That is exactly the point," Taiho replied. "I want them confused. I want them lying awake at night, wondering what we will do next. I want them to understand that we could have been monsters, but we chose to be something else." He turned to face his officers. "Humanity has always been underestimated. They see our short lives and think us impatient. They see our emotions and think us weak. They see our individual nature and think us divided. They never understood that these are our greatest strengths." Chief Engineer Beek Sunno looked up from his console. "Admiral, we are receiving emergency transmissions from minor species across the galaxy. They are begging for mercy. They say they did not vote for our confinement. They say they were forced to support the Council's decision. Catalog them all, Tai-Ho ordered. Note who asks for mercy and who stays silent. We will remember both. In the Council chambers on Nexus Prime, the representatives of 347 species gathered in chaos. The insectoid speaker tried to maintain order, but fear had taken hold. Species that had celebrated humanity's confinement now screamed for protection. Species that had stayed neutral now demanded explanations. The Valorian High Commander stepped forward. His scales were pale with shock, but his voice was steady. We underestimated them. We all did. They are not the primitive species we believe them to be. They have technology we cannot explain. They have capabilities we cannot match. And worst of all, they have restraint we cannot understand. The speaker clicked its mandibles nervously. What do you suggest? The High Commander looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of 100 different species. We must unite against them. Every fleet, every soldier, every weapon we have. We must crush them before they grow stronger. Some voices agreed. Others protested. The chamber dissolved into argument not far away. Admiral Tai-O received reports of the chaos. He smiled grimly. Everything was going according to plan. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not a species to be contained. They were a species to be feared. The unified fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 2 million warships gathered in the Vorin Nebula, representing 12 of the most powerful species in the galaxy. The Valorians brought their heaviest battleships. The Crystalline Consortium contributed their energy vessels. The Hive Collective sent swarm carriers filled with millions of fighter drones. They had one mission: destroy humanity forever. Admiral Keth Voron of the Valorian hegemony commanded the combined fleet. He was the greatest military mind his species had ever produced, with over 300 victories in his career. He had studied the human attacks carefully. He had learned from the humiliation at Keth Prime. He would not underestimate them again. We outnumber them 40 to 1, he told his commanders. They cannot hide from us forever. When they appear, we will surround them, crush them, and end this threat once and for all. His commanders agreed. Mathematics was on their side. 2 million ships against perhaps 50,000. The humans would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. They waited in the nebula, sensors scanning in every direction. Days passed. Then weeks. The alien crews grew restless. Some wondered if the humans would ever come. Others secretly hoped they would not. On the 23rd day, humanity arrived. General Imsora commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the U-East Defiance. She had 60,000 warships under her control, each one equipped with a cascade drive. Her crews were ready. Her weapons were charged. Her heart was cold. All ships report status, she ordered. Green lights flashed across her display. Every ship was ready. Remember your training, Sora said over the fleet-wide channel. Remember why we are here. They tried to cage us. They tried to destroy everything we built. Today, we show them the price of their arrogance. She raised her hand. Begin. The human fleet did not enter the nebula. Instead, they appeared inside it. Ships materialized in the center of the alien formation, behind enemy lines, above and below the main fleet. They came from every direction at once. Admiral Voron's eyes widened in shock. His careful battle plans were useless. The humans were everywhere. Fire. He screamed. All ships fire at will. The alien fleet opened up with everything they had. Energy beams crisscrossed the nebula like a deadly web. Missiles launched by the thousands. The hive drones swarmed forward in clouds of metal and fury, but the human ships were not there to receive them. A cascade drive allowed them to jump short distances in the blink of an eye. A human destroyer would appear, fire a devastating volley, and vanish before the return fire could reach it. Alien ships found themselves shooting at empty space, while human weapons tore into them from behind. Chief Engineer Beak Sano had designed the human ships for exactly this kind of warfare. They were not meant to stand and fight. They were meant to strike and disappear, again and again, wearing down the enemy with 1,000 small wounds. The alien fleet fell into chaos. Ships collided with each other, trying to track enemies that would not stay still. Commanders screamed conflicting orders. The hive drones, programmed to chase targets, flew in circles as human ships jumped away from their attacks. Tactical Officer Lee Min-ho coordinated the battle from a central command ship hidden at the edge of the nebula. His screens showed the entire battlefield in perfect detail. He moved squadrons like pieces on a game board, always one step ahead of the enemy. "Focus fire on their command ships," he ordered. "Cut the head off the snake." Human destroyers materialized around Admiral Varan's flagship. They poured fire into its shields and jumped away before the escort ships could respond. The shields failed after the 4th attack. The 5th attack destroyed the engines. The 6th killed Admiral Varan and everyone on his bridge. With their commander dead, the alien fleet began to break apart. Some species retreated without orders. Others continued fighting, but without coordination. The Hive collective ships stopped moving entirely when their connection to the Queen's command frequency was jammed. The battle lasted 9 hours. When it was over, the unified fleet was destroyed. Over 1.5 million alien warships were reduced to floating debris. The survivors fled in every direction, carrying tales of human ferocity to every corner of the galaxy. But the human reckoning did not end with military victory. Dr. Ohana had spent years studying alien biology. She understood their bodies better than they understood themselves. And she had created something terrible. On the Hive Collective's primary breeding world, human ships released tiny machines into the atmosphere. These nanobots were invisible to sensors and harmless to breathe. They passed through the Hive's defenses like ghosts. The machines found their targets, the reproductive systems of every breeding-age Hive female on the planet. Within hours, they were all sterilized. Not killed, not harmed, just unable to produce offspring. An entire generation of Hive soldiers would never be born. When the Hive Queen learned what had happened, she fell silent for 3 days. Her species reproduced slowly. Losing one generation meant losing millions of future warriors. It would take them centuries to recover. Dr. Hana felt no joy in what she had done. She had used her knowledge to wound, not heal. But she also remembered the Hive's vote to cage her entire species. She remembered their indifference to human suffering. She had shown them the same mercy they had shown humanity. Similar punishments fell upon other species. The Crystalline Consortium found that their most valuable mining equipment had been sabotaged during the human infiltration. They would lose trillions in resources. The Valorian military academies received packages containing the personal belongings of their dead admirals, along with a simple message: "We could have killed your families too." Admiral Kang Tai-ho addressed the galaxy from the ruins of the Council's orbital station. He stood alone on a platform floating in space, surrounded by the wreckage of what had once been the center of galactic government. "You tried to cage us," he said. His voice broadcast to every planet and ship and station in the galaxy. "You called us dangerous. You called us a threat. You decided to eliminate us before we could become powerful." He paused, letting the words sink in. "You were right to fear us. But you made one mistake. You gave us time. Time to prepare. Time to build. Time to become everything you feared we would become." His eyes were hard as stone. "We could have destroyed your homeworlds. We could have killed your children. We could have wiped your species from existence. We had the power. We had the opportunity. But we chose restraint. He raised his hand, pointing at the watching galaxy. Remember that restraint. Remember that we chose mercy when we could have chosen annihilation. And remember this, if you ever try to cage humanity again, we will not be so kind. He lowered his hand. This war is not over. It will end when you accept one simple truth. Humanity will never kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone. Not ever. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, species that had celebrated humanity's confinement now wept in fear. They had awakened something they did not understand. Something they could not defeat. Something that showed mercy only because it chose to. The reckoning had come. 6 months after the war began, the Unified Species Council no longer existed. The great chamber on Nexus Prime stood empty. The seats where 347 species once argued and debated were covered in dust. The speaker's podium was cracked down the middle. The symbols of galactic unity had been taken down and stored away. An era had ended. Humanity had won. But Admiral Kang Taiho knew that winning a war was only the beginning. Building a lasting peace was far more difficult. He had seen enough history to know that victors who became tyrants eventually fell. He wanted something different for humanity. Something better. We will not become what they feared, he told his officers. We will prove them wrong. The Terran Accords were signed on the anniversary of the Council's verdict against humanity. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered on Earth. In a small city by the sea called Bizin. It was Admiral Taiho's hometown, the place where he had grown up watching ships sail toward the horizon. The new framework was simple. No species would ever again be condemned without trial. No species would be confined without cause. No species would be threatened without consequence. Every civilization, no matter how small or young, had the right to grow and explore and reach for the stars. Minister Chodeo, the old architect of Protocol Prometheus, became the first human ambassador to the galaxy. His job was not to rule, but to rebuild. He oversaw reconstruction efforts on damaged alien worlds. He directed resources to species that had suffered during the war. He made sure that humanity's victory did not become humanity's shame. We broke many things, he told his staff. Now we must fix them. Not because we owe these species anything, but because it is the right thing to do. Human engineers traveled to the Valorian homeworld to help rebuild their orbital defenses. Human doctors went to the Hive Collective's breeding worlds to research ways of reversing the sterilization, though the damage could not be fully undone. Human traders offered fair prices to the Crystalline, consortium for the resources they had once planned to steal from human space. Some aliens accepted this help with gratitude. Others refused it with pride. Minister Cho understood both reactions. He did not force anyone to accept human aid. He simply made it available and let each species make their own choice. Captain Ru Juno, the spy who had walked among aliens as a ghost, became the head of the new Galactic Security Force. His agents no longer worked alone. Now they trained alongside alien recruits from every species, the first class of mixed species. Security officers graduated on a space station orbiting a neutral world. Humans stood next to Valorians. Crystalline beings worked alongside reformed Hive soldiers. They wore the same uniform and swore the same oath to protect peace throughout the galaxy. JUNHO addressed them on graduation day. You come from species that once tried to destroy each other. Your ancestors fought wars that killed billions. But you stand here today as equals. You have proven that the past does not have to define the future. He smiled, something he rarely did. Go out there and make the galaxy better than we found it. Dr. Shin Yunbi, the physicist who had invented the Cascade Drive, made a decision that shocked everyone. She shared her research with the entire galaxy. Knowledge should unite, not divide, she said when critics questioned her choice. If we keep this technology to ourselves, we will always be seen as a threat. If we share it, we become partners in exploration. Within a decade, every species had access to instantaneous travel. The galaxy became smaller. Trade increased. Cultures mixed and merged in ways no one had predicted. Some called it the greatest gift humanity had ever given. Others called it dangerous foolishness. Yunbi did not care what they called it. She had lived long enough to know that progress could not be stopped, only delayed. Better to share knowledge freely than to have it stolen through conflict. General Imsora retired from military service. She had fought enough battles for one lifetime. She returned to Mars, to the caverns where she had once trained millions of soldiers, and opened a school for children. I taught people how to fight, she explained to anyone who asked. Now, I want to teach them how to think. War is sometimes necessary, but it should never be the first choice. Her students came from human families and alien families alike. They learned mathematics and science and history. They learned to question authority and think for themselves. Many of them went on to become leaders in the new galactic government. Commander Park Yuna retired too, but for different reasons. She had spent too many years watching and cataloging and remembering. She had kept lists of enemies and tracked every insult against humanity. Now she needed to let go. She moved to a small colony on the edge of known space, where stars were thick and civilizations were few. She built a house with her own hands and planted a garden outside her door. She kept one memento from her service, the list of species that had voted for humanity's confinement, not for revenge. As a reminder, so that future generations would never forget how close they had come to extinction. Dr. Ohana continued her research into alien biology, but her focus changed. Instead of studying weaknesses, she studied connections. She found genetic patterns that linked species across the galaxy, evidence that all intelligent life might share a common ancestor billions of years ago. We are all related, she announced at a scientific conference attended by researchers from 100 different worlds. We are all family, separated by time and distance, but connected by our origins. We have more in common than we ever realized. Some aliens wept when they heard this. Others argued against her findings. But the idea spread, slowly changing how species thought about each other. Admiral Kang Tayo was offered the title of Supreme, commander of the new galactic order. Every human leader agreed he had earned it. Every major alien species offered their support. He could have ruled the galaxy. He refused. I am a soldier, he said. Soldiers fight wars. They do not rule in peacetime. That job belongs to better people than me. He returned to Earth, to a small house by the sea, not far from Bizan. He grew vegetables in his garden and fished in the morning and watched the stars at night. Sometimes old friends visited. Sometimes journalists came with questions. He welcomed both with the same calm patience. One journalist asked him how humanity had won against impossible odds. He had been asked this question 1,000 times, and he always gave the same answer. They saw us as a threat because we refused to stop growing. We were always reaching for more, always pushing past our limits, always dreaming of things that seemed impossible. They thought this made us dangerous. They were right, but they should have realized that danger and greatness often come from the same source. He looked up at the stars, at the countless worlds where humans and aliens now lived side by side. That is what makes us human. We never stop reaching. We never stop growing. And we never, ever surrender. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not a species to be contained. They were a species to be respected. And any civilization that forgot this truth would be reminded, swiftly and decisively. But for now, there was peace. And peace, Admiral Tayo had learned, was worth fighting for.